on strike, protesting, death rate is dropping. Why? All the bodies are in the freezer. And what it should have said is we need to do the paperwork to get these people officially dead. Okay? And yeah, I hope my grandmother's not still in there. But what we have here is it's very easy. Now, I told you that when you die, there's going to be trustees that take over, remember? I said there will be trustees that are going to take over the trust when you die. Now, how do we know when you're incompetent? How do we know? We know how you die. You've died, right? How do we know when you're incompetent? For those of you who have a trust, very commonly we're going to have a 2-doctor standard. Okay? And it very simply says, if you go to the doctors, usually 2, and they fill out the paperwork, sign a certificate that says you have Alzheimer's disease, you're no longer able to manage your affairs, then you are deemed to be replaced. Okay? Now, this is an important issue because it came up. Let me tell you why the 2-doctor standard is an issue. It actually was not my client. It was a good friend of mine. It was his client in another jurisdiction. The husband had the early stages of Alzheimer's. And he actually went back in time and thought that he was in the Depression. He went down to the bank and pulled out his life savings, went to his house and buried it in the ground. Now his wife saw this and she went and took the money out and put it back to the bank. Now when she went to the bank, she said to the teller, "Do not let my husband take this money out. He's suffering from Alzheimer's." Now what is the bank going to say? Hey, no, they can't do that. All right? So of course the husband goes to check on his money. To his surprise, he sees it's not there. He goes back to the bank. He pulls the money back out. This time he's going to do it right with the help of the gardener and bury this money in his backyard, and more protected. Now I heard somebody snicker because that's right. Okay, when the wife went to go check on the money, guess what was missing? The money and the gardener. Okay? So this was their whole life savings. It is funny because it sounds ridiculous. But I've had enough experiences to know in our own practice why that humor, when we're dealing with that woman, quickly goes away. Now, when she went to the physician to remove her husband as trustee, he said, "Have you ever heard of the term HIPAA?" Now, has anybody here heard of the term HIPAA before?
Yes.
Okay. The HIPAA is a federal statute and it's very basic as it applies to us. It says your medical records are private and nobody can get access to those medical records unless you give them permission. But what's the problem here? How do you give them permission if you're incompetent? Okay? Now you could say, well, we're going to actually pre-authorize. We're going to say the doctors, if I become incompetent at that time, are going to be able to release that. Well, does anybody here know what the penalty is for the physician to tell the world what your conditions are? Number 1, it's a felony. Number 2, you go to jail. Number 3, if the doctor did it and it was innocent, $50,000 fine. And if it was deliberate, like signing that certificate, over a $200,000 fine for that doctor to So, and there's another reason. Do you think that the doctor wants to stick his neck out on doing something like that with the kind of lawsuits that these physicians are going through? Okay? We know firsthand the answer is no, and not unless we have an order from the guardianship judge. Okay? So that's a real problem. Now, so what they do is they go to pull out the equity in their home by selling their home, and guess whose signature is required on that home? The husband's. Now, can the notary sit there and make her own independent determination that this man is no longer able to sign his name? Has anybody seen the signature of somebody who's suffering from Alzheimer's? I have. And it looks like this. Okay, just up and down lines. And it's very easy to identify that signature doesn't match that signature. So we have the bank on the one hand telling us that we can't remove him. We have the notary on the other hand saying that he's incompetent. We have the wife in the middle who can't convince the doctors to certify this HIPAA. Now, the way we get around that is we go all the way back to the beginning of this section and we say, we know how you're dead, it's the certificate. How do we know if you're incompetent? The strategy is to remove the doctors from this equation, and we're going to appoint a disability panel. This panel will then vote whether or not you're able to manage your affairs. Okay? It's usually composed of your spouse and your loved ones, those who would have been the successor trustees. And that way we're able to remove this whole issue from the from this equation. Now, yes, sir?
Gary, would you please translate the acronym HIPAA? What is it? HIPPA?
It's the Health Insurance Portability Accountability Act, I believe. Okay? Haven't had that question before, but glad I got through that. Now, as sir in the back, you said, you're right. You actually, the statistics say you are 6 times more likely to become disabled this year than you are to die. So the death plan is not dealing with this issue over here, and it's little consolation to that woman that she'll avoid probate and the estate taxes, because that wasn't her problem. That wasn't the issue. Her issue was a life planning issue. Okay.
Question.
Yes, sir.
How is this disability panel set up? Is it through the court?
Oh, no. The entire strategy here, everything we talk about tonight, is to prevent you from going to court.
You can do that through the trust?
Yes. Okay? Not with the 2-doctor standard, because how are we forcing the doctors to certify? We're getting a court order. So the 2-doctor standard is not going to work because of HIPAA.
Correct. I mean, assuming that he can't sign it, he already is under the Alzheimer problem. This disability panel then would take care of that.
Yes, and I'm going to show you what happens after we decide that you're incompetent. Okay? I'm going to show you what happens next.
I have a question.
Sure.
In the case where you said the person took the money out and buried it, and she took it and put it in the bank, and she put it in her own name, he could never get his hands on it.
That's true. There are ways of getting around that when it comes to putting the money somewhere else. That doesn't solve our real estate problem,
No.
and it doesn't solve some other types of investment problems.
Right.
But you're right on the bank. Okay.
My question, I'm single, I've got ex-wives, I got no children, so my disability panel, what's it going to consist of? I have no spouse and I have no loved one.
Well, actually, there is a way to have your primary physician on there without having him violate HIPAA. And just this morning I had somebody in a similar situation put 2 doctors. One was her specialist, one was her primary physician. But they will not be revealing and violating HIPAA at that time. Okay? All right. With these trustees, let's say that I die and that my wife is going to be, she's going to be the sole trustee at that time. Now let's say that she's feeling ill, she has the flu, she just doesn't feel well. Who's going to be required to pay the bills? My wife. Okay, let's say she goes into and has a hip replacement. She's in the hospital for a short-term stay. Who's going to have to pay the bills? My wife. On a more positive note, let's say that she's vacationing somewhere in Greece. Okay, who's going to take the checkbook with her? Of course, my wife. Okay, now let's talk about, I told you my oldest is 9. Let's pretend she's 18. Okay? Her name is Soraya. Now, what my wife is going to do at that point, if my daughter is old enough, is that she's going to want to put my daughter on the accounts to have a backup, to have somebody there in order to help pay those bills, just in case she has a temporary emergency. And she'll sleep well at night, unless there's a divorce, a bankruptcy, or a lawsuit that my daughter gets into. Then she's going to run down to the bank. She's going to say, I want you to remove my daughter's name from this account. And will the bank let her do that? No, you can add people, but you cannot take them off. She might try to fight them and say, hey, I put these people on, I should be able to take her off, and that just won't happen. So if there's a divorce, a bankruptcy, or a lawsuit, that money's gone. Okay? It gets worse. Because now the plaintiff's attorney, he's not sure what the connection is, but he knows there's some kind of connection between my wife and my daughter's lawsuit. So my wife is going to have to pay some money, a little money, to get her name removed from all those lawsuits. Okay, so that is not a kind of strategy that we want to do. What we want to do in place of that is that if I die, okay, my wife is going to be co-trustees with my daughter as a backup, as a silent partner. I have it listed here as a silent partner. Now, if my wife is ill and not able to pay the bills, my daughter can pay the bills. If she has a hip replacement, my daughter can pay. Or if she's out in vacationing, my daughter can pay. Now let's say she doesn't pay the way she's supposed to. My wife can go down to the bank and say, I want to remove my daughter as trustee, and that can be done without a problem. So my wife always has the power to remove and appoint that co-trustee. Okay? Now, let's say that I am dead, and my wife is alive, and she's incompetent. Now, as I told you before, there is a successor trustee. Remember we talked about this? Now, the successor trustee, their job, their duty, is to preserve the assets of the trust for the beneficiaries. Okay? For the kids, for herself. So if my daughter is going to be named as the next successor trustee, my wife's not able to, my daughter has a real dilemma here. Because is she supposed to be working for herself as a beneficiary or for mom? Which one? Okay? Now it gets worse because the more money that she spends on mom, the less money that there is available for her and her siblings. So there's a real conflict of interest here between these two. And the way she's going to balance that out is she's going to do the best she can and what's acceptable to society. Well, unfortunately, what's acceptable to society is to qualify my wife for Medicaid, not Medicare. We're talking about welfare Medicaid. And that way, the estate and my daughter won't have to pay for any of those medical facilities, which often is the number one expense. So, my wife, in order to qualify for Medicaid, she has to go to a skilled nursing facility. Now, I don't know how many of you are looking forward to that day of going to a skilled nursing facility, but it's not something on my A list. So what do we do to stop this dilemma? Is we tell my daughter, you're a disability trustee. Now what's that? Well, that's simply somebody who says, you are only in charge of taking care of mom and dad if they're alive. Don't worry about the kids, don't worry about any of these beneficiaries down here, just take care of mom and dad. Use the money in the trust to maintain their standard of living and to take care of all of their needs. Okay? So that way, now when my wife finally does die, she will then wear that hat up here as the death trustee. So she's a disability trustee while mom and dad are alive. After we die, she's the death trustee. Now, these three people up here, they can all be the same, they can all be different. It depends on the family situation. It just depends. The point is, this is a life planning type issue, not a death planning type issue. Power of attorney. The power of attorney comes in two different types. Of course, there's the healthcare power of attorney, and there's the financial power of attorney. Let's take the financial one first. The financial power of attorney is a scary document because what we're doing is we're giving somebody else the ability to sign your name anywhere. That's what it does. All right? So, if there needs to be any type of assets that are accessed, retirement plans, insurance, governmental benefits, tax returns, any of that, this power of attorney is going to give that person the ability to do that. Now, somebody might say, well, why don't you just wait until you're disabled to do that? Well, once again, I heard the laugh. First of all, if we wait to do the document until you're disabled, you can't do it. And then, of course, we say, well, why not build into that document the ability to have it spring to life when you become disabled? What's the problem with that? Who determines if you're disabled? We have the same HIPAA problem. So I'm not saying that you shouldn't have one of these, okay? I have one myself, okay? It's just that we want to closely monitor this type of document. Now there's, within these powers of attorney, the financial, there's a general power of attorney. That's not going to help us because it's not going to endure through the disability. We need to have a durable power of attorney. The durable power of attorney will last through the disability. All right? It's very, very powerful. Yes, ma'am?
Do they expire?
They can, but the ones we draft do not. We want to monitor them. Here's a good example. Here's how I ask this question. Has anybody ever known anyone who's divorced? Okay. if you have ever been divorced or know of somebody, and you have given your ex-spouse that power of attorney, okay, that power needs to be revoked. It doesn't automatically just shut down because you got a divorce. So if the blood is kind of leaving your face, don't worry, your ex-spouse isn't in here. And we'll leave it at that. Now the health care. Let's say that you're in the hospital and the physician comes in and he needs to perform some surgery. He's going to say, I need to do this, that, and the other. If he can't communicate with you, we need to know who he can communicate with. So that is where the health care power of attorney is. Now, of course, we've all heard of Terri Schiavo, this woman in Florida. Most people got one major thing from that whole debacle. We need to have a living will of some sort. Okay, actually, there's 2 additional things that we should have gained from that. Of course, you need to have a living will. Now, when the court ordered the removal of life support, by the time the physician got done doing that, there was actually 2 tubes still remaining in Terri Schiavo. One was the feeding tube, one was the hydration tube. So when we started thinking through this issue, we said, you know, gosh, we might have our own definition of what we think we want to have life support removed, but we know there are other people who have different definitions. So number 1, does your definition include the removal of life support? Does that include removing the tubes? And if so, both tubes, one tube, which one? There are other issues that relate not just to burial or cremation, or if your agent must first consult with your family. Okay, there are issues that actually deal with diabetes. I had no idea this even would come up. But for those who have ever had diabetes and experienced the comas that can set in, you know that it's not good enough sometimes to just say, hey, you know, if I'm in a coma, pull the plug. Okay, we need to be more specific than that. Now, has anybody been to the emergency room holding their head in their hand? What's the first question? Even with your head in your hand. Are you insured? Okay. The second question is, do you have your health care power of attorney? Now, we're going to liven up for a minute. Has anybody here been disco roller skating before? Disco. We're talking like 70s stuff, okay? Well, a couple of years ago, I went disco roller skating. Let me give you a little bit of an advice. Number 1, keep your wig on secure to your head. And number 2, you know when the disco ball comes on and the light's shining up to it and they shut all the other lights off and there were those lights that go like around the room? If you're roller skating, don't look at those little tiny lights that are going around, because they're going one way and you're going the other way. Okay? This happened to me and I ended up flying, hitting my head, and getting a gash right actually on this side. So I'm gashing out blood here. I go down to the emergency room. Of course, they asked me, do you have insurance? And I tell them, of course I do. I gave him my card. And then he said, do you have your health care power of attorney? I said, what do I need that for? I just need to have this thing sewn up. He said, well, if we go to sew you up and you pass out, we're going to admit you, and we need somebody to communicate with if we can't communicate with you. And I said, okay, well, that's valid. So what I did is I reached in my wallet and I pulled out this card and I said, will you please call the number on this card? He said, sure, what for? Who is this? I said, well, actually, it's a computer, and they're going to ask you for the PIN number here. Enter in the PIN number, and they're going to say you're holding Mr. Fales' card. Enter in your fax number. So then, enter in the fax number here at the hospital, and in about 15 minutes, they will fax over my healthcare documents. He said, you're kidding. I said, no, go ahead and try it. So he went back there. It was a slow time of the night. Went back there with the physician and the attending nurse, and they're over there watching for these healthcare documents to come through. The doctor came over and he said, that's amazing. That's cool. How'd you get that? I said, well, my estate planning attorney gave it to me as part of maintaining and updating and making our documents available. He said, who's that? So I said, call me in the morning. My dad's a physician. I've always wanted to say that in my professional life. Call me in the morning. So now this card will give me access to my healthcare documents 24 hours a day, any time of the week, anywhere in the world. Now I've had a client, I had somebody similar to this. I said, anywhere in the world. She said, does that include all 48 states? I said, it sure does. Anywhere in the world. Now, I have to admit, this is my favorite slide. Let's say the surviving spouse decides to go dating. Does anybody know who this is? Who? Anna Nicole Smith. Now, wives, if you die and your husbands go dating, is there an Anna Nicole Smith in your husband's future? And the husbands are saying, I should be so lucky, right? That's, incidentally, is not her grandfather, although it could be, right? So let's switch it around for a minute. Let's say, husbands, if you were to die first,